They said she was too old to drive, too fragile, too slow, too outdated. But that morning, when the engine of the matte black Lamborghini roared to life in front of her daughter's perfectly curated suburban home, every assumption shattered like glass on concrete. The neighbors stood frozen. The wind carried the smell of high-octane fuel and blooming betrayal. A soft smile curled on the old woman's lips as she slid on a pair of vintage sunglasses and pulled away from the driveway, the supercar's growl drowning out the stunned silence behind her. What no one knew was that this wasn't a random rebellion. It was a carefully calculated move, decades in the making. She had once lived on the streets. Literally. Cardboard boxes for pillows and the flicker of streetlights for comfort. A broken marriage, mounting bills, and a world that moved too fast to care had left her with nothing but a second-hand coat and a quiet will to survive. She was invisible to society, just another forgotten soul curled up outside convenience stores and charity shelters. People mocked her, avoided eye contact, pretended not to hear when she asked for directions or mercy. But she had listened, learned, observed. Behind dumpsters and fences, she'd overheard conversations about stocks, crypto, real estate, and underground auctions. She absorbed knowledge like a sponge, piecing together strategies from discarded business magazines and overheard cafe meetings. She started investing with what little she had, first in scrap metals, then in microshares, then property auctions no one wanted to touch. Over the years, her identity blurred. No one paid attention to the quiet woman at the back of the library, the one carrying a plastic bag with a notebook full of numbers. They never saw her sit through city council meetings in the back row, tracking zoning changes. By the time she was back on her feet, she owned 5 rental properties, 2 car washes, and silent shares in 3 startups. But she never showed it. Her daughter, ambitious and image-obsessed, believed her mother was just a relic, something to hide in the background during parties, someone to shame when guests were around. Last week, while driving her mother to a doctor's appointment, the daughter snapped. "You're too old to drive. Seriously, it's embarrassing. You can't even work the radio." She laughed. Not out of cruelty, perhaps, but out of ignorance. But that laugh echoed. Something about it stayed. So the next morning, the old woman called in a favor. A discreet auto dealer she had once rescued from bankruptcy had sent over a very specific car. Not just any Lamborghini, but the one her daughter had posted a dozen times on her social media, hashtagged with captions like #someday and #manifestingdreams. By noon, the woman had changed into a crisp white abaya, draped a silk scarf, and walked barefoot to the garage. Her daughter's judgment had become fuel. The keys glistened in her hand like the final piece of a puzzle no one thought she was smart enough to solve. But the drive wasn't just about the car. It was about the chase. She passed the school her daughter went to, the one she had cleaned bathrooms in when tuition was overdue. She passed the bus stop where she once waited for job interviews, ignored by drivers when it rained. She passed the nursing home she'd almost been placed in, by the same daughter who thought she needed help managing things. But most importantly, she drove past her daughter's office building. People looked up from their phones, pointed, filmed. There, behind the Lamborghini's tinted glass, sat the woman they thought was nobody. She parked right in front of the entrance, walked out, dropped a small manila envelope on the receptionist's desk. Inside was a signed document transferring ownership of the downtown penthouse office her daughter worked in. Not to her, to the janitor, a quiet man who had once brought her water when she fainted in a hallway. As she stepped back into the car, security guards rushed out. But she smiled, said nothing, and drove off, leaving behind more than rubber tracks. The daughter called, texted, screamed, but it was too late. She had forgotten the one rule that every rising star should remember: never insult the roots that hold the tree steady. And now those roots had decided to grow elsewhere. But even now, the story doesn't end. Because, rumor has it, the Lamborghini wasn't rented. It was one of 5. Hidden across cities. Part of a larger empire built in silence. The kind of empire that moves without noise, without show, just power. Some say she's planning something bigger. that the drive was just the first chapter in a silent revolution. That one by one, the people who underestimated her will start to realize they never really knew who she was. And maybe they never will. So, the next time someone calls you too old, too slow, or too boring, remember, age is just a number. But revenge? That's timeless.